The people at Black Lives Matter Incorporated, which is a domestic terror group, but one who knows how to make money, trained Marxists, always know how to make money for themselves and block it for other people. They are no fans of Kamala Harris, and they're actually calling her out. And wouldn't you know that it's Marjorie Taylor Greene who's somehow joining forces with Black Lives Matter Incorporated. Black Lives Matter Incorporated doesn't want Cammie because she's maybe not openly leftist enough. Maybe she's not violent enough, although she did a heck of a lot to raise money for the Minnesota bail funds. But how interesting that BLM is joined with Marjorie Taylor Greene in not wanting Kamala Harris in office.
Since being appointed by border czar by President Joe Biden, Kamala Harris has undoubtedly been a complete failure in her job and has destroyed our country by releasing a record-setting levels of criminals and terrorists into our communities. Despite the attempts of the fake news media to whitewash her appointment as border czar, as Axios correctly reported, and they're now lying and say they never did, she was in fact labeled a border czar by nearly every major news outlet across the country. Border czar Kamala Harris said, "Do not come," yet proudly welcomed 11.5 million illegals from over 160 countries, including over 2 million known gotaways who completely evaded U.S. authorities. She stood by and allowed these people to come in and idly watched our children and women being raped by illegal alien criminals. She's not just allowing them to come. The policies of the administration allow the CBP One app to import over 400,000 illegals into American communities. Under her watch as border czar, this has happened. She can fake it for the photo ops, but we know that Kamala Harris wholeheartedly supports the chaos at our border, the chaos in our streets, and the chaos in the families who have been victims of her open border policies. Border czar Harris outlandishly compared ICE to KKK and radically called for the ICE to be abolished. She also posted the Minnesota Freedom Fund to bail out violent Black Lives Matter terrorists who burned down cities, looted stores, destroyed communities, and caused over $2 billion in damage to American communities all over America. Kamala Harris is not only the border czar, she is also the czar of chaos. And her policies have destroyed Americans.
I listened the other day when I was doing my radio show on the American Family Radio Network on 180 stations and listening to the news. A radio show God gave me, no question, absolutely handed to me. Thank you, Lord. And that fund, the Minnesota Bail Fund, was getting, a couple hundred donations here and there. After Kamala Harris did that, they got 83,000 donations and a ton of money. So she may not have directly donated to them, but she caused the donations to come in. This is leading to yet another form of death for the Mockingbird media, and it's this. Not only are they not believed, now people are able to see they don't care that they're believed. There's a reason the party lies constantly. We'll talk about this later this week. There's really a reason why. I don't think journalists to this point even have a clue as to what's coming. Looking at the numbers and the decrease in usage of the Mockingbird media, there will come a time where shows like this in aggregate with Tucker Carlson, who just overtook Joe Rogan as the top podcast in the world. Congratulations, Tucker. Nothing against Joe, but congratulations, Tucker. There will come a time where distributed shows like this, independent shows like this, are going to overtake the Mockingbird media in whole. There's going to be an attempt to shut that down. You watch what they're going to try to do to shut this down if the Democrats seize office, such as rating sites. Yep, there are news like NewsGuard, rate sites for trustability, and then they pressure advertisers to not work with people like us. They're not going to give up this fight easily, but journalists are making it very, very easy to see that they don't care, that it's evident that they lie constantly.
Quote unquote border czar. Vice President Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People are going to have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
The Biden team didn't declare her the border czar. They wanted her to work on kind of the root causes of immigration.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. You know, she was the border czar.
Calling her sort of the border czar, which wasn't necessarily the case.
So the border, if they weren't planning to address it in a major way, do not make her your border czar. She met with some of the Northern Triangle countries, but nothing has effectively changed.
Side by side by side. CNN says she was border czar, but she was never border czar. MSNBC says she's the border czar, but she was never the border czar. One of the effects of social media and memeing is that we can finally begin to do something to inoculate young people against the Mockingbird media. And that is to get ahead of these stories, to get ahead of how they're going to change things, so that when people understand that they will come back and totally erase history, let's get ahead of some of the things they're going to do. They're going to issue polls that appear to show Kamala Harris with a face-stomping lead against President Trump. They'll do that at specific times to drive down Republican turnout and to make it easier when they poll to steal based upon all mail ballots and drop boxes in states that still allow it. And let's get ahead of this. Notice something about the Republicans, the shiny shoes. They're always 7 years behind social media. Back when we started to talk about the of kids 6, 7, 8 years ago, not a single Republican office holder came to me and said, wait, what? What's happening? When I broke the news about men being allowed to shower next to impacted girls in the YWCA in Pierce County down in Tacoma, Washington, not a single Republican officer holder came to me and said, wait, what? Because they were comfortable.